Mayapur struck me as idyllic, and as I rubbed the mustard oil onto his lotus feet, I suggested that it would be a fine place for Prabhupada's retirement. He mused for a moment and then replied, "Either Vrindavan or Mayapur, no other place, that is for sure." I guess I'll read the rest of this. Early in the evening, Harikesh came in to see Prabhupada, looking very glum. Glum, what's that? Never heard of that word. He admitted that he had left the Almiraha. What's Almira? It's in italics. He admitted that he had left the Almiraha in Prabhupada's Kolkata room open. Srila Prabhupada was very angry with him. He could not understand how he had been so careless. Prabhupada keeps many important items locked up in his rooms, in cupboards or almiraha. Okay, almiras. It's a cupboard. Especially in main center, where he has permanent rooms like Bombay, Vrindavan, Calcutta or Mayapur. Because Harikesh has been traveling with Prabhupada for quite some time, Prabhupada entrusts him with keeping records of the banking as well as other transactions. But he said that now this carelessness meant he cannot be trusted. Harikesh felt he should immediately ring Kolkata, but Prabhupada made it clear the only solution was for Harikesh immediately to leave for Kolkata to personally lock up the Almira. That was the only way to be certain. Harikesh immediately made the arrangements and left soon after. Apart from this incident, the evening was very pleasant. Prabhupada sat relaxed and happy in his room. Both doors were left open on either side of him, allowing a gentle breeze to flow through, while the sounds of an ecstatic Sandhya Arati Kirtana led by Sudama Maharaj reverberated in the night air. There were no visitors. After a hot cup of milk from our own cows, Prabhupada took rest at 10 o'clock before starting his night's translation work. Supposed to be quite a challenge. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the 6th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled Duties for Mankind. Chapter 2, Ajamila delivered by the Vishnu Dutas, and this is text 33. Yes. Very well. Anyatamriyamanasya Nashuche vrishalipatehe Vaikuntanama grahanam Jiva Vaktumi Harhati Anyatamriyamanasya Nashucher Vrishalipatehe Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Vaktumi Harhati. Would anyone like to chant? Anyatha mriyamanasya Vaikuntanama grahanam Jiva Vaktum Viharhati Anyatam Riyamanasya Nashuchir Rishalipatehe Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Vaktum Viharhati Anyatam Riyamanasya Nashucher Vrishalipatehe Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Vaktum Viharhati. Ladies, perhaps. Anyatam Riyamanasya Nashucher Rishalipatehe Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Vaktum Viharhati. If you want to, it's not. Anyatam Riyamanasya Nashuche Vrishalipatehe Vaikuntanama Grahanam Jiva Vaktum Viharhati. It's actually, I made a mistake. It's not jiva, it's jiva. There's a huge difference. Jiva is soul and jiva is the tongue. Anyata, otherwise. Mriyamanasya, of a person who is just ready for death. Na, not. Ashuchehe, most unclean. Vrishalipatehe, the keeper of a prostitute. Vaikunta, of the Lord of Vaikunta. Namagrahanam, the chanting of the holy name. Jiva, the tongue. Jiva. Vaktum, to speak. Iha, in this situation. Arhati, is able. Translation. Were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly it could not have been possible. Purport. The name Vaikuntapati, which means the master of the spiritual world, is not different from the name Vaikunta. Jamila, who was now a realized soul, could understand that because of his past spiritual activities in devotional service, he had gotten this opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati in his horrible condition at the time of death. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Again, we have relatively simple Sanskritam, anyata. Anya just means others, and anyata, otherwise. Mriyamanasya, manah is mind, mriyamanasya, someone who's getting ready for mrityu or dying. Na is not. Shuchi means, does anyone know shuchi? The word shuchi. Clean, yes. Shuchi means clean. So na shuchi means not clean. Actually, here we have two words, na and then ashuchi. Na is a negation and then ashuchi. And this na refers to the first line, anyata. So not for any others who are getting ready to die. Something's not possible. What's not possible? And that this person who's about to die is ashuchi, means unclean. And at least in Vedic culture, in Vedic tradition, the concept of cleanliness is primarily the concept of internal cleanliness. And the purpose of external cleanliness is to help the internal cleanliness. As a matter of fact, the goal of life is thought to be internal cleanliness. And the reason why one's supposed to be keeping clean his body and the environment within which one lives is to maintain external purity, which then aids internal purity. And this is the first thing that someone learns in Vedic civilization. And it is unthinkable that someone could live in an impure state. And therefore in the Bhagavatam there is a prediction that in Kali Yuga something horrible will happen. And it's just unimaginable in regards to cleanliness. I'm pretty sure you don't know what I'm thinking of, but just in case. Does anyone know any 12th canto predictions about lack of cleanliness in Kali Yuga?
I don't know what this was. How to say it? People are going for illicit sex.
That's also true, but there's something very specific in regards to cleanliness, or the lack of it. And it's considered just unthinkable that this could ever take place.
Or maybe to eat cows.
No, unthinkable. And it's going on in all of our temples. And you're totally aware of it. Yes, uncleanliness, but it's said that unimaginable, believe it or not, but in Kali Yuga, brahmacharis will be unclean. That's a prediction, and we can see, I'm sorry, but even now I passed up there, and you can smell the gamshas, I can, it's unimaginable that a brahmachari would be unclean. Unimaginable. There's the prediction. So I guess we can't help it. We'll just have to be unclean. Because that's the first thing you learn. And you learn it right as a brahmachari, to be clean. And to maintain we're talking about external cleanliness. because that's how it goes. You keep externally clean in order to help the internal cleanliness. It's hard to maintain internal cleanliness if you're surrounded by tamas, bad smells, bad sights, disorganized items, like that. So the word is ashuchi, and Prabhupada says most unclean. And vrishali is a prostitute. Vrishali, a woman who sells her body. Vrishali. And patehe means a husband, sort of a master or someone who keeps. Could be also patehe, a master of animals. So also refers to a husband. So a husband of a prostitute. And this is what Ajamila was. Like he literally married a prostitute. Unthinkable that someone would do something like that. But most people do this nowadays. Most women are encouraged to remove all the blockades they have in their head in regards to prostitution, and just, be cheap. And then there's the word Vaikuntha, and it's interesting that this name is a name of Vishnu, and it is also a name of Vishnu's abode, and Prabhupada says that in the purport. So we have the term Vishnu Nama, which means the name of Vishnu, and Grahanam. Does anyone know what this word Graha means?
It's to capture?
Yes, to hold. Yeah. How did you know that?
I learned Jyotish and...
Jyotish, yeah, because planets are called grahas,
no.
because they hold everybody.
Yeah, unfortunately from there.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Graha means to hold. And so in Jyotish, planets are known as grahas, because they hold everybody. Grahas. So Vaikuntha Nama, the name of the Lord of Vaikuntha, God's name, Grahanam, to hold. This is a Sanskrit way of saying that there is a recitation of God's names. You hold the name, you're saying the name. You hold the name. And Jiva is tongue. And Vaktum refers to Vak. Vakya, speech. Vaktum, to speak. Iha means here in this world. And Arhati, able, capable of, like that. So very simply the verse says, the verse refers to the previous verse, otherwise it would make no sense. And Prabhupada puts that in the translation. But if it wasn't put in the translation, you would have to refer to the previous text. Because you see in the translation, Prabhupada says, if there was, were it not for my past devotional service, I would not be able to remember God's name. But as you can see in this verse, oh, it took off. Yeah. But as we can see in this verse, there's no mention of any devotional service. But in the previous verse, the verse that we read yesterday, there is the statement of Bhavitavyam Mangalena. Bhavita, this is possible. This took place because of Mangalena. Mangala means auspicious, good, auspicious, pious, and so on. And that's all it says. No specific reference to devotional service, just says auspicious. And because of the previous auspicious good activities, in this verse now we have the statement, because of previous Mangala, I was able to remember who been married to a prostitute, who have lived unclean life. I'm able to remember the God's name. So what do we learn from this? What's the message? It's just a matter of equation. It's almost like a mathematical equation. Yes?
Actually, whatever sinful activities we are doing, we can be free from it somehow when we recite.
Okay, so one thing is that this is what Prabhuji is saying, that by reciting the Lord's name we get freed from impious acts. Okay, what else is stated? What else is stated in this verse? What do we learn from this verse? Yes.
Because even the worst person, if he once recited the name of God, he's already considered to be like a Vaishnava.
Okay. Even though that's not explicitly stated in the verse, that is an accurate statement. What else do we infer from this verse? I have resolved to torture you this morning.
Because he was...
Just from the verse. Don't go outside of the verse. Just the verse.
You ask why Jamila, in spite of all his...
I didn't ask why.
He asked, but...
Oh, the verse is asking. Okay, go ahead.
The verse is asking, yes, why he was so sinful, but why he, in spite of all this, he was... or maybe I didn't get the question correctly. Could you repeat my question, but what exactly you...
My question is, what do we infer from this verse? What do we infer from this verse? What is this verse telling us? What is there to learn directly from the verse? Yes.
In previous services, we were that even like Ajahn did after some sinful activities, but this seems to...
Can you please speak louder?
Previous service in the past, what we did is actually, very hard to say, it stays.
Yeah, very well. That's directly stated in the verse. Here it is stated that Ajamil himself is wondering how in the world a sinful, unclean person like me was able to remember God's name at this crucial point of life, the time of death. How? Past service. Verse before, because of Mangala. Because of the Mangala, good things is done before. So what does this tell us? We flip it around. This tells you that unless you have done Mangala, you cannot remember God's name. Follow? That's the message. Very loud message. Because he himself is wondering, how in the world did I manage to remember God's name? That's amazing. Because I lived an unclean life, an impious life. I was a horrible person. And the way it was horrible, everyone nowadays would think that it was just fine. But everyone nowadays do live unclean lives and horrible lives. And so if you live like this, how in the world can you remember God's name?
By mercy?
Well, that's by mercy, yeah, sure. Yes. But what he is saying that he was able to do that only because previously he's done mangalam, good things. That should therefore tell us, if we want to be in this situation where we want to remember God's name at the right time, we should right now do Mangalam, good things. And good things, Srila Prabhupada very specifically in the translation, it doesn't say just good. Prabhupada very specifically says devotional service. Because that's all auspicious, devotional service. And when you do this, then you become capable. You become capable of remembering God's name. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sualpa Swalpasya Sualpa Punyavatam Rajan Vishvasanaiva Jati. So, what does this say? Does anyone know what's the meaning of this? Most devotees recite this before taking prasadam. Mahaprasade, so we have Mahaprasadam, right? Then we have Mahaprasad, but when you say Mahaprasade, it means unto Mahaprasadam. Then Govinde, unto Govinda. Mahaprasade Govinde, Nama, the name. How do you say name in Russian? Ime. Ime, okay. Same like in Croatian. Ime. Mahaprasade Govinde, Nama, Brahmani, unto Brahmanas. And Vaishnave, unto Vaishnavas. Sualpa means Swalpa means Alpa means very little. Swalpa, and Sualpa means super small. Like really, really small. Swalpa. Punya, what's punya? Yes, piety. Piety. So it says those who have very little piety, they don't have faith. They don't respect. In them you don't find faith in or respect for Mahaprasadam, for Govinda, for Govinda's name, for Brahmanas, and for Vaishnavas. In other words, this verse is saying that if you want to have respect for Vaishnavas, the holy name, and so on, there should be some pious background of yours. Like you should have done some Mangalam in the past. And again, message is the same. Do Mangala right now. Whether you've done it in the past or not, do auspicious things right now. In the Bhagavad Gita, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha vinirmukta bhajante mam dhridavrataha. Does anyone know this verse, perhaps? Bhagavad Gita. Also very simple Sanskrit. It's 728 Bhagavad Gita. 7 chapter, text 28. Yesham, so this is referring to somebody. To anta means end. Gatam papam, one who has antagatam, who has reached the end of what? Papa. Sin. Yeah. How do you say Pope in Russian? Pope. Yeah. The head of the Catholic Church. Pope. Okay. In Croatian, it's Papa. This is not recorded, right? Yeah, I mean, if you see the menu of that person, really not good. So those who have come to the end of Papa, those who have come to the end of sinful activities, them, and who have jananam, punya karmanam, and who have done punya, again, punya, mangala, these are all same words, means they have done good deeds. Them, dvandva moha nirmukta. Mukti means liberation. Nirmukti means they can be freed from what? The duality of illusion. Why do people have a hard time rising above the duality of illusion? Because they have no pious background. Life after life lived impiously, and others steeped in the lower modes of material nature. This is not me saying, this is Bhagavad Gita. 728. And then he says, Bhajante mam drida vrataha. And those with such good pious background and who have done sinning, they don't sin anymore, and they have done lots of good activities, they can rise above the illusion of duality, and they can bhajante mam, they can worship me, drida vrata, with a great vow. So why do people cannot do it? Why do people cannot utter the name of God? Why do people cannot rise above the duality of illusion? Why do people cannot worship God? Because of the impious background. And because they continue to act impiously. So that's the message from Bhagavad Gita, that's the verse from the Puranas. I don't know which one, didn't bother to look it up. This is the message from today's verse, that you cannot be ashuchi, impure. You cannot be impious. You cannot be sinful and then expect that you will just chant the holy name of God. And there is Aho batashvapachoto gariyan yajivagre vartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnurarya brahmananuchur nama grinantiyete. Does anyone maybe remember this verse, hearing it somewhere? Prabhupada quoted it many times. This is in the third canto of the Bhagavatam. Devahuti is saying this. She's talking to her son, Kapiladev, and Kapiladev is instructing her, and she's glorifying, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're such a remarkable individual that people who are impious, they don't have access to you. And then she said, you're so good that whoever chants your name is freed from all sins, and it should be understood that if someone has chanted your name just on the tip of the tongue, should be understood that this person has done all the sacrifices, all the purificatory processes, been to all the holy places, took bath in all the holy rivers, etc., etc., etc. And then in the purport, Prabhupada says that in order to chant the holy name, you need to do all these pious things. And yet here we are, we're chanting the holy name. So, what's up? There's I can't remember the exact reference, but someone asked Prabhupada a question like this, that I don't remember doing any of these activities, and yet here I am chanting the holy name. And Prabhupada says, that's because I have done good things for you. So Prabhupada says that he has done all the good things for this devotee. This is what you said. This is the mercy. This is the mercy. But someone did all these things, and if we're if we were to be honest, we can also see that those of us who are coming from significantly impure and significantly impious backgrounds, to that extent, we typically, not necessarily, but we typically have problems uh, uh, maintaining Krishna consciousness. Because the result of impious and unclean life results in the bondage of the three modes of material nature, and very specifically, bondage of the two lower modes, the mode of ignorance and the mode of passion. And then Krishna consciousness becomes difficult. We also see that people who are devotees and therefore should be considered greatly, greatly fortunate, when they start to commit sinful activities, even though they're devotees, they can be dragged away from Krishna consciousness. And I know quite a few examples. I mean, as I was reading this verse this morning, so many people came to mind. I don't know if I should even say, like, these are really, I won't say, they're too gross. But the fact is, if you have become so fortunate that you have come to this point of actually chanting God's name and trying to worship the Lord, and then you decide to do impure and impious activities like lying, stealing, cheating, hurting other living entities for no good reason, you do things of the lower modes of material nature, keep unclean, and so all these things drag you away from Krishna consciousness. That's how it goes. And then there is a situation which I don't know whether it's worse than this one. There is the situation of Ramachandra Puri. Do you remember reading Ramachandra Puri? Ramachandra Puri was a god brother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And some or other, he was a Brahmana, if I remember correctly. Yeah, if he is Puri, then he's a Brahmana. He was a Brahmana, and but a Brahmana with a seriously sinful propensity. Propensity. When you have a propensity, means you have inclination towards something. You have attraction to do something. What's a Russian word for propensity? Sklonost. Sklonost. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm Ukrainian and Russian is also something.
Okay, yeah. But Ukrainian and Russian, they're almost the same, is it?
Sometimes some words just opposites.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why you should be careful.
Sklonost, yes, that's propensity. Sklonost, yeah. And what's interesting is okay, I'll just quickly tell. He would find a Vaishnava, and then he would present himself as the greatest friend of that Vaishnava. And then he would tell the Vaishnava, I'm going to, please give me the opportunity to feed you Mahaprasadam. And then he would bring huge quantities of Mahaprasadam. and then induce the person to eat a lot, a lot, a lot. And then he would stand above the person and say, "What? You are a Vaishnava and look how much you eat." It's like a sick person. And then he would go around and tell how this Vaishnava is a bad Vaishnava, he eats too much. And he's tried to do this to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, and he knew what the intention of this person was. So Mahaprabhu cut his meals into half. And devotees hated Ramachandra Puri because they wanted to feed Mahaprabhu every day, huge feasts. And because of this horrible person, Mahaprabhu cut his meals in half. We'll give her a chance to translate, to catch up. And he tried to do this to Mahaprabhu, interestingly enough. And then when he couldn't find any proofs that Mahaprabhu was eating a lot, then he saw some ants on the floor and said, "Aha! There's ants on the floor." How do you say an ant in Russian? Moravi. Muravi. In Croatian it's mravi. Almost the same. Yeah. There's ants on the floor. Okay, so so what? Well, how did they come here? They must have come here because there must have been some sugar on the floor. Where did the sugar come from? It came from all the sweets you ate. You're a sannyasi. How can a sannyasi eat so many sweets? And what's interesting, every time in Chaitanya Leela someone offended devotees or Mahaprabhu would end up with a horrible disease or something like that. But Ramachandra Puri, there's no mention that he got any kind of a disease. He just happily continued to offend everybody in the universe. And in some ways, you could say that people who got sick or were somehow or other punished immediately, they were way more fortunate than this person who continued to offend everyone. Because imagine if, in order to remember the holy name of God, you need to have a pious background. Then here you have a person who's just accumulating sinful reactions. So, to me, when I think of this might be the worst situation ever. It's better if you walk down the street and a piano lands on your head. Way better. At least okay, I must have done something bad. But this person is now very happy to just continue doing stupid things. Okay, for the end, I'll quote one verse from Srila Rupa Goswami. That's another famous verse. I mean, if it wasn't famous, I wouldn't know it because I'm not that great of a student. Vichayani, vichayani, vichintyani, punah, punah. Also very sweet Sanskritam, like super sweet. Kripanasya dhananiva tvam namami bhavantu nataha. Bhavantu naha. Vichayani vicharyani. So first you have a miser. Anyhow, I'll just read the translation. O Lord, this is Rupa Goswami as a devotee prays. O Lord, just as a miser continually collects, counts, and remembers his money.
A miser?
Yes. A Lord, just as a miser continually.
What does miser mean?
Oh, miser is... What's a Russian word?
Yeah, but it's really
Жадный, жадина.
Жадana.
Жадный.
Жадный.
Скупой, so miser.
Jadni, yeah. Do you know what a miser is?
The person who doesn't surrender to Krishna.
No, yeah, might be. But miser is someone who doesn't like to give,
It is a greedy person.
But-
Greedy.
likes to keep. Miser, greedy. Yeah, we could say a greedy person. Yeah, that's a miser, a stingy person. Like for such people, they say they have a snake in their pocket because they never go for the wallet. They're afraid that the snake may bite them. That's a saying. So he doesn't want to spend. Wow. That's a miser. Yeah. So, O Lord, just as a miser continually collects, counts, and remembers his money. I'm laughing because I know one person like this. Like constantly counts his money and then he thinks about his money and he's got a lot of money. A lot. And hard to get even, a couple dollars out of this guy. That's how he got rich. So, O Lord, just as a miser continually collects, counts, and remembers his money, in the same way, let us continually collect, count, and remember your holy names. Yeah. Because you see in Krishna consciousness, as it is a fact that you need to have a pious background to be able to take to Krishna consciousness. But Krishna consciousness is itself the ultimate form of piety. So by performing Krishna consciousness, you're realizing the goal and the means to the goal. And so Srila Rupa Goswami says, let me be like a miser. But instead of collecting, counting and remembering money, let me count, collect, and remember the holy names. Okay. Any questions or comments, perhaps? Oh, that's that. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. I would like to ask you, you mentioned, there was the main topic also of the lecture, like sinful activities, like we could say also offenses, or maybe see or hear offenses to other devotees. I would like to ask you, maybe you could speak a little bit about offenses and maybe which kinds, and that we are more aware of it, because it's an important topic what can happen all the time.
offenses in devotional service.
Yes, and practically, what means when we do this and that, that's maybe an offense, or where is the border, what's maybe not an offense, and it's all the time like a, how to say, sensitive topic.
Well, if we were to look at, let's take the 10 offenses to the holy name, which you on some days recite in the morning before japa. Practically, it is impossible to not commit offenses to the holy name unless you're a pure devotee. But you see, the point is not so much that you do not commit offenses, as much as you're actually trying to not commit offenses. You see, that aspect of trying, that's the most important thing in it all.
To try to don't do.
Correct. To try to avoid committing offenses. You have to try not to commit offenses. And when you hear a devotee, when he or she says, "Oh, I'm tired of this," they're just tired of Krishna consciousness, unfortunately. And then, they're going to find some other thing they're going to do in which they're going to again find themselves in the point of tension. And they say, "Oh, there's too much tension in Krishna consciousness." But no matter what you do, there's always tension. If there is no tension, your life would be boring as hell. Because we're made by God to live in tension. No tension, no interesting life, just a boring life. And the tension in Krishna consciousness is that it's not that you have to be pure devotee, but you have to be wanting to be pure devotee and trying to be a pure devotee and trying to avoid the offenses. And as long as you're trying, Krishna says, you are a holy person. Even if occasionally you fail. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam mananya bhak sadur eva. Even if you commit the most abominable thing, but if your determination, if your desire is to become a pure devotee, if your desire is to try to avoid offenses, but somehow or other, if it happens that despite all of this, you sometime actually do an abominable act, even most abominable act, Krishna says, Sadur Eva, certainly you are a sadhu, in my opinion. So that's the point. We try to educate ourselves, what is offensive, what isn't, and we try to serve Krishna and be a devotee and try to become a pure devotee like that. And as long as we're trying, we're good. Krishna says, you are a holy person. That'd be my answer of choice for this morning. Yes.
You mentioned it before and you was thinking about it, don't say some examples, but maybe you could say some, from some devotees or so. It's not so pleasant, but it's good to hear that to be aware of, not to be attractive. When you decide.
Yeah, I know many examples. I know so many, and I'm even afraid to say some of them. Because if I say this, then some devotees become relaxed. They relax the tension. and they allow themselves to be more sinful than they should. But I know many devotees who did stupid things in the moment of weakness. But they sprang right back, no problem. Even like really bad things. I won't say it. Because the moment you say this, then everyone says, oh, maybe I could do that. And I might be okay. Yeah. Because it's interesting, you know, if it's an accidental fall down, then Krishna cleans that from the heart. But in one point, if you continue, the fall down is not quite accidental anymore, you know. Then it goes to your great detriment. Detriment means it goes against your interest. Detriment literally refers to something that goes against your interest. Detrimental. So why test your luck, you know? Why even investigate where that line is? The point is that we ought to try to be devotees, pure devotees, and do our best, and then whatever happens. Is that okay? Yes.
There's a terminology that says.
There is?
A terminology or like a
terminology.
Phrase, it says crime, or it's a yogic terminology, it says crime against one's own wisdom.
Yeah.
So one knows that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's crime with planned and unplanned crime. Like premeditated and there's crime in the heat of the moment. Those are two very different things. Is that what it refers to? Is that what you thought of?
More the other. I mean, that's not meditated on, but just happening like that.
Yeah. So in legal courts, they call that crime in the heat of a moment. And then you have premeditated crime, where you just thought about it, planned it all out, and then did it. And then, yeah. Like even if you, in court, if you murder a person, but in the heat of a moment, you get the mildest possible sentence. But if you planned it all out carefully and carefully executed it, you don't get anything below lifetime of prison. And in previous times, it would be a capital punishment. Yeah, in previous times, in the modern world, capital punishment is, for the most part, looked down upon. Not in Bhagavad Gita, though. Okay, any... Any last thing, perhaps? All right, looks like we're good. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.